All right, let's dive into something that is a massive headache for pretty much anyone working with modern networked applications, that black box of encrypted traffic. Today, we're going to look at a tool that promises to give you the key.
You've been there, right? You're trying to figure out why an application is failing, but all the traffic is encrypted with TLS. It feels like trying to fix a car engine while the hood is welded shut. You know something's wrong, but you just can't see what's happening inside.
And this is the classic dilemma. You absolutely need encryption for security. That's just not negotiable these days. But that very same security creates this black box, which makes debugging, performance tuning, and just general observability, well, nearly impossible. You're flying completely blind.
But what if you had a key to that box, a way to peek inside without having to break the lock? Well, that's exactly the promise of a technology called eBPF, and the tool that puts this power in your hands is called eCapture.
So what's the magic here? At its heart, eCapture uses this incredibly powerful Linux kernel technology called eBPF. The best way to think about eBPF is as a safe way to run these tiny, super efficient programs right inside the kernel itself. This lets eCapture hook in and see the data right before your application encrypts it. And that means you don't have to mess around with CA certificates or, and this is the best part, change a single line of your application's code. It just works.
Now, this approach has some amazing advantages. First, it's totally non-intrusive. You don't need to restart your apps, you don't need to hot patch anything. It's also super efficient because it's running in the kernel with eBPF. And as we're about to see, its usefulness goes way, way beyond just web traffic.
Okay, enough theory. That all sounds great, but let's see how this thing actually performs in the real world. We're going to walk through a few common scenarios that show you just how simple and powerful this tool really is.
So first up, let's tackle the most common use case. Imagine you want to inspect the traffic from a command line tool like curl, which, uses the standard OpenSSL library for all its HTTPS requests.
It is honestly this simple. You run one command, sudo eCapture TLS, and bam! eCapture immediately starts streaming all the decrypted data right to your terminal. This just perfectly illustrates the whole philosophy behind the tool, getting you the maximum amount of insight with the absolute minimum amount of effort.
Okay, printing to the console is fantastic for that quick, in-the-moment debugging. But what if you need to do a deeper analysis? Or maybe you need to save the capture and share it with your team? Well, that's where a familiar tool like Wireshark comes into play.
With just a couple of extra flags, eCapture will save all that plaintext data into a standard PCAP-NG file. You can then just open that file in Wireshark and see the entire conversation, fully decrypted as if it was plain old HTTP from the start. It slots right into the network analysis workflow you already know and use.
So, that handles the standard libraries, but here's where things get really cool. What about applications that use their own encryption libraries? Modern apps written in Go, for example, use their own native TLS implementation. Traditionally, trying to inspect that would be a huge pain.
This is where the tool's intelligence really shines. eCapture actually has a dedicated module just for Go applications. You literally just point it at your compiled Go binary, and it knows exactly where to hook into the Go runtime to pull out the plain text data. This shows a really deep understanding of different tech stacks, whether it's Go or even boring SSL on Android.
And it doesn't even stop at TLS. The same eBPF technology that powers all this can be used for so much more. It really turns eCapture into this full-on observability and security audit tool.
I mean, just look at this. You can use the very same tool to audit database queries in MySQL and Postgres. You can even capture every single command that's typed into a bash shell for security analysis. It's an incredibly versatile toolkit for any developer or sysadmin.
Now, if you're not a huge fan of living in the command line, don't worry, the project has you covered. There's also eCapture Q. It's a cross-platform graphical client that lets you see all this captured data in real time, making it even easier to analyze what's going on. And I really want to emphasize, this is not some small, niche utility built by one person. This is a mature, very active open source project with some serious backing from the developer community. Just look at the numbers. The project has nearly 15,000 stars on GitHub. For an open source tool, that number is a massive vote of confidence. It really speaks to the tool's quality, its reliability, and the fact that it solves a genuine, painful problem for thousands of developers out there.
So if you're thinking, wow, I need to try this, you're in luck. Getting started is super straightforward. The code is all open source on GitHub, there's a dedicated website with documentation, and you can either run it as a simple binary or just pull a pre-built Docker container. It's incredibly easy to get up and running.
And that really brings us to the final takeaway. I want you to think about your own systems, your own black boxes. What troubleshooting mysteries, what performance bottlenecks, or what security questions could you finally answer if you could just lift the veil of encryption? Thanks so much for watching.